Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a first impressions demo review on this product from Beauty Blender. This one is their Liquid Beauty Cleanser. I have done a review on their Solid Bar Cleanser. If you guys would like to watch it, I'll link it on the screen. But yeah, today we're going to try out the liquid version on some beauty sponges. Okay, so these are the beauty sponges that I would like to clean using this thing. So most of them are just like stained with your normal foundation concealer, baking powder, and as you guys can see, some of them have like little tears in them already because I'm quite rough when it comes to cleaning them. I also have an actual beauty blender that I'd like to see if it will actually work on. I also have these Juno, I think these are Juno sponges. These ones tend to be a little bit hard to clean even with the solid bar ones, just because it has like those two different textures. So it'll be interesting to see if it does clean that one as well. Another one that I'd be interested to see if it does work is this sponge. Now I use this to blend some cream colored products on my face. I think I was doing like a rainbow face or something. So I had these, I have some blue, I have some pink and purple I think mixed into this as well. So I want to see if it removes that. And then on the other side I just have some normal foundation and concealer and probably some baking powder as well. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly read the instructions on this, how to use it, because I've never really used it. I've seen people use it, but I want to make sure that I'm following the instructions to get the best result possible. Okay, it says here, using a damp beauty blender, press on the pump nozzle, distributing cleanser onto the surface of the sponge, lightly squeeze and work into a lather. For stubborn stains, pour a small amount of blender cleanser into a bowl with water and let it soak for a few hours. Remove excess water and place beauty blender in a clean, ventilated area to dry. Some of these sponges have had these products in them for quite some time. Like, I'm pretty sure this Real Technique sponge has been like stained for probably more than a month because I completely forgot about it. And this sponge as well. This one is a Nikia Joy Cosmetics beauty sponge. This one as well, I'm pretty sure has had at least that product in there for a couple of weeks. And this Juno sponge as well, definitely. I tend to kind of like rotate between these three these days, so these have like newer product in them, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not it will work on them as well. Okay, so we're going to start first with the actual beauty blender. So this is just the original pink one. I'm just going to get this wet. Okay, so this tap actually isn't working, so I've just got some water from another tap in this bowl. Just get it really nice and wet. As you guys can see, none of the products really come out, so it's pretty caked on there. So I'm just going to open this. Okay, so how you open this, you just press down and that comes out. So I'm assuming you just pour it onto the sponge. Like that. I don't know if that is too much or just the normal amount. Just try and rub that in there and ooh, okay, you can see it's already breaking up that foundation there. Ooh, you can see that it's already breaking up some of that foundation. And smell-wise, it almost has essential oil smells. Think lavender. Like, that's what I'm getting from this cleanser. Okay, let's dunk it into the water. Let's see how much more comes out. Alright, that's pretty good, I have to say. This sponge actually had a stain of foundation from maybe 2 washes ago that I didn't properly clean out, so I'm hoping this also removes that, but wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't. I feel like sometimes certain beauty sponges, once you use them for a certain number of times, you just can't get the stain out, so let's see. So I think it's broken up a little bit more of that foundation. It's definitely gotten rid of most of that concealer on the tip, even though I didn't really put too much of the soap there. I'm just using pretty much the suds to kind of like help penetrate deeper, but I think that's pretty much it. I think that's the best I can get out of this beauty blender. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit of foundation left in there. I think that's the original stain that I had from like 2 uses ago, so I'm not surprised that it's still there. I might try and let this soak for a couple of minutes in a separate bowl and see how that works. I'm not going to leave it for a couple of hours because honestly I don't have the time for that, but I am going to leave it in probably warm water to see how that works. Alright, so in a separate bowl I have got pretty hot water in there, so I'm just going to do a couple of squirts of this cleanser in there. And give it a bit of a stir, and then just dunk the sponge in there, letting it really submerge, and hopefully that breaks down more of that foundation. Again, the instructions say leave it in for a couple of hours, so if it doesn't completely remove it, I wouldn't be surprised. But if it does, I'd be very pleasantly be surprised. Alright, let's try the Juno one. So again, just dunk it into that water. And then pour some of this cleanser on it. So again, this is one of those beauty sponges that I feel like has had a stain for quite some time and I just couldn't get rid of. Like these ones here. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if this sort of like just applying cleanser method doesn't remove it. Okay, it's definitely doing something. Okay, so I feel like it has removed some of that staining. Again, I feel like this has removed a lot of the makeup that's like newer and just stains are still there. So yeah, I'm just gonna put that in the other bowl as well to soak. Okay, I've just changed the water. Now we're gonna do this Real Techniques one. Again, this is one that I feel has had the product on for quite some time. A little side note, I didn't realize I had a paper cut. I can definitely feel it now. Okay, that's pretty impressive. I feel like it's removed most of the makeup. Just for reference, I use mainly liquid foundations and liquid concealers, and I also use the same part that I use for the concealer for baking powder. Okay, as you guys can see, the foundation bit's pretty good. The concealer bit still has some product, so I'm just going to add a little bit more there, work that into a lather as well. Then do the same on the foundation side, just not as much product. Again, the main aim of this video is really to show if this is going to be good for like a quick spot cleaning. If you don't really have time to let your sponges soak for whatever reason, or if you're really impatient like me, you just want your sponges clean enough to use. Just to show you how much of the actual products it can actually remove from your sponges. If you guys would like me to do a proper review where I do actually let them sit for a couple of hours to see if they actually clean the sponges thoroughly, including stains, definitely let me know. But so far I feel like it actually does clean the sponges, it just doesn't remove all the staining. Personally, I don't really mind if there's stains on my sponges. I feel like that just comes with the territory when it comes to beauty sponges. Sometimes you just end up with stains that just can never be removed. So I feel like the foundation bit side has been pretty good. The concealer bit still has a bit of a stain, so I'm just going to let that soak as well. So this one is the Nakia Joy one. Just kind of give it a generous drizzle. This one, because it is a black sponge, doesn't tend to show a lot of staining. Again, the butt bit does have some staining from ages ago, so we'll see if it helps break it apart. I feel like sometimes with cleansers it also depends on the material of the sponges, whether or not it is going to like fully clean it. But so far this Nikia Joy one's been pretty good. Just going to dunk it into the water. Okay, the tip bit has been pretty clean. Again, this butt bit, I feel like still looks like it's a bit stained. I don't know if it's actually showing on camera, but yeah, I might do a little bit more just there. Really work that into a massage. Maybe dunk it in as well, just so that it gives it a good lather. And I think that's actually done a really good job, because I can't really see anything. Again, you also have to remember this is a black sponge, and black sponges don't really tend to show staining as well. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. I don't really see any more foundation staining even on the butt bit. So I'm gonna set this aside to do a proper rinse later. Up next, I've got this Morphe sponge. This one I feel is quite dense compared to all the other beauty sponges that I have, and staining doesn't really affect it as much as the others from what I've noticed. So let's see how well this does. If I'm being completely honest, this is probably one of my least favorite beauty sponges, just because of how hard it feels on the skin. Yeah, not a huge fan of it. It does work, don't get me wrong. It's just, in terms of sensation on the skin, I prefer the other sponges that I've just shown you. Yeah, see what I mean? Like, this removes the makeup quite quickly off this sponge. Again, I think it's also got to do with the actual materials the sponge is made of. There is some light staining just here, and the tip bit here. So I might do a little bit more, but so far, just from like initial squeezing and stuff, you see, it really gets in there. Okay, so I'm just going to try and focus on the stained areas. In terms of how much cleanser I've used, this was full, and actually this wasn't completely full, it was probably just above this little sticker line, and it's probably just below it, so I think I've just used a decent amount considering I've dunked a fair bit as well in the other bowl. Yeah. This is still working its magic. I can see it's trying to lift some of those stains as well. So that's pretty promising. I don't think it's removing all the stains though, because I can still see some staining, like in this side particular. But again, my main goal is just to make sure it's clean enough that I can use it for the next time. Okay, overall I think pretty good. Some staining still persisting, but overall I think that's pretty good. And now I'm going to just change this water because it's starting to look quite ewy. Alright, now we're down to the last sponge that I want to use it on. So again, this one's like cream coloured product, and then just regular foundation. So just get it wet. By the way, this is a Kmart sponge. Okay. Oof, you can already see the magic working. Okay, so as you can see, it's broken up majority of the makeup, but there's still some stains. I dare say this is going to be one of those sponges that's going to end up with sort of like well, not sort of, with a permanent stain. That's just from my experience. Sometimes you just can't get a stain out just because of the type of product you've used. Like these ones, I've ruined so many sponges by doing that. So I always like to designate one sponge for like these weird like different colors because I know it's just going to stain the sponge and I know it's going to ruin the aesthetic of the sponge, but it doesn't actually diminish the performance of the sponge. And honestly, that stain is just a stain. It's not actually going to mix in with a foundation or the next concealer that I'm going to use it with. So let's check on the Beauty Blender. That's been soaking in there for a couple of minutes. I feel like it's actually broken down some of that staining inside. So let's just try and add a little bit more of this and work it into a lather and see if it breaks it up even more. I think it is. You can see that foundation sort of like gunk on my finger there. So maybe, yeah, just letting it soak for a few minutes actually helps as well. I don't know if leaving it in for a couple of hours does make a huge difference. If you guys have used this product before, definitely let me know if it does make a difference if you leave it in there for longer. Again, I've only really left it in there for like a couple of minutes. Yeah, I dare say that's lightened it up a bit more. I wouldn't say by much, but you can see a difference, definitely. Alright, we'll go to the Real Techniques one, and I feel like it's still the same. Don't think much has changed. Let's add a little bit more. Just in that stain and see if it... No, I don't really see any makeup breaking up anymore. I think that's just permanently stained now. Because I have so many beauty sponges, I tend to just rotate and then just go back to them when I need to clean my sponges again. So, yeah. This isn't really completely surprising for me. Like, even some of my other cleansers, they're pretty much the same sort of like result, except I feel like this one's actually done a lot more compared to the other cleansers. Yeah. Let's see the Juno sponge. Alright, Juno. Okay, I can see some of that foundation's broken up a little bit more on the microfiber bit, so that's pretty promising. See, like it's actually pulling out some foundation still. So this is like really deep in the sponge, I feel. With this Kmart one, I've just squeezed it out. I don't know if the camera stopped before I actually managed to show you. But the blue on the tip of this has gone. It's now just left with this like magenta sort of like staining. The stain at the bottom near the sponge, I feel like it's lightened. I don't think it's completely gone though. But I think letting it soak in the bowl has definitely broken down more makeup that's like deep inside the sponge. Okay, I think this is as good as I'll get with these sponges, so I think I'm just going to rinse them out and then just do a little chit-chat overview of what I think about this cleanser. Alright, so the sponges have been rinsed, wringed out, and now they're just drying on this little tea towel. And now I'm going to give you guys my first impressions review on the Beauty Blender Liquid Blender Cleanser. Now, the Blender Cleanser, I have to say I'm pretty impressed. I'm not gonna lie. Do keep in mind that, again, some of these sponges have had some of that makeup, that staining for quite some time, and this product has been able to lift some of that staining, not all, some of that staining in pretty much a quick cleaning session. This is what I would classify as a quick cleaning session. If I really wanted to, I could have just left these sponges sitting overnight or at least a couple of hours as per in the instructions. reactions to see if it really does break up the staining. If you guys would like me to do that, definitely let me know and I can do a follow-up video. Overall, I feel like it does clean the sponges. I just don't think it removes all staining. So when I think of makeup staining, I feel like it's really just really deep inside, and some of that color has just discolored the actual material of the sponge, and I don't necessarily think it's actually dirty and it's going to mix in with my new batch of makeup that I'm going to apply on my face the next time I use it. So for example, this Nikia Joy cosmetic sponge, this one had makeup sitting on it for probably a month or so, and it's actually cleaned it really well, and I can't really see any staining. This one from Morphe, this one has had stains for quite some time now, honestly. I've never really been able to get rid of the stains, and this has been able to lift some of that staining off. Not completely again, but you know, it's removed it quite well, and I'm very, very impressed. And then moving on to the Real Techniques sponge, I do feel like this one has had the foundation on and the concealer on for at least a month and a half as well, so I'm not really surprised that it's really stained the tip of this sponge, but overall I think generally it's still quite clean. And then we've got the Juno sponge over here. Honestly, this is the cleanest I've seen it, and usually bar of soap makeup cleansers tend to be quite effective, but with this it just doesn't seem to work. But this liquid cleanser has actually cleaned it. Obviously you can still see a little bit of makeup sort of like staining there, but I can't really do much about it. What I'm really impressed is like the staining here is actually lifted, so really, really impressed. Now with this beauty blender, I've had this beauty blender for well and truly over the recommended time you should be having, or keeping I should say, the beauty blender for. And this stain has been there for, I'd like to say, a month or 2 months now, so it's actually lightened it, so I'm pretty impressed. So I'd be interested to see how this works when I do actually leave it for a couple of hours to work its magic. And then this Kmart sponge, again, I used like face paint sort of like makeup, so it's definitely stained. And from my experience with those sort of products, it always just does stain the sponge, regardless of what I use to clean it off with. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But in terms of the foundation and the concealer with this sponge, it's been completely removed as well. So overall, I am pretty impressed with this product, and that's pretty much it from me, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.